Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us for our session today, AI Strategies for Finding Major Donors and Increasing Donor Retention. We're going to go ahead and get started shortly, but if you are just joining us, we'd love to have you say hello in the chat box on the bottom of your screen. Let us know your organization, your name, and where you're joining from so we can see who we have on today, and we're going to get started shortly. All right, we have a lot of organizations joining, a lot of folks from all over the country. It's great to see. We're really excited that everyone could be here today. We have a great session planned for you today. It's AI strategies for finding major donors and increasing donor retention. For anyone who's curious, the session will be recorded. So you're going to get a copy of the actual webinar as well as a copy of the PowerPoint slides, and they're going to come in a follow-up email after you leave the webinar today. There will also be time for Q&A at the end. So if you do have any questions, please go ahead and make sure you drop them in the Q&A box. It's better to drop them in the Q&A box rather than the chat. The Q&A box helps us keep track of all of them that come over. The chat, they kind of move up and down as others chime in. So any questions you'd like answered in our Q&A at the end, go ahead and drop them at the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. It looks like a little question mark. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. First poll we would like to learn from you all is, find it. Oh. Hold on one second. Sorry, I don't think I have this one. Okay, I must not have added that in. Apologies about it. But if in the chat, if you've ever heard of Arreva and or EverTrue and Arreva, please go ahead and say yes in the chat so we can see who we have on and who's heard of Arreva and EverTrue before. And if not, you're going to learn a lot today about both of them. Okay. And then next poll, we would like to hear from you all. Do you feel donor acquisition is getting easier or harder year after year? All right. Now we see in the chat harder. Okay. We have a few more minutes for those responses to come in. All right. So 76% of you say it is getting harder year over year. 19% say no change and 4% say easier. All right. Next poll we would like to ask, are you using more than 2 systems to manage your fundraising and donor activity? So this can be anything from a software that hosts your online donation pages, one you're using for peer-to-peer team fundraising, another to sell event tickets or sponsorships, another to manage your volunteers or your memberships, maybe a software that you're using for grant management or to find grants, auction software, things like that. So if you have 2 or more of those. All right, so 78% said yes, they are using more than 2 solutions. 17% said no, and 5% are not sure. All right, next question we would like to know, have you used peer-to-peer or team fundraising either with or without AI? So you have a few options. You can select that you've used both peer-to-peer and team fundraising. You've only used peer-to-peer, you've only used team fundraising, or you've done both peer-to-peer or team fundraising with AI, or maybe you have not done either. All right, I'll give a few more seconds here. Interesting results. Okay, so 43% have not used either peer-to-peer or team fundraising. 26% have used both. 23% have only used peer-to-peer. 5% have done only team fundraising, and 3% have used those with AI. And then the next question we would like to learn from you all. Are you using artificial intelligence, AI, to predict donor behavior? A couple more seconds here. We've got a lot of answers coming in. All right, so 92% of you are not using AI to predict donor behavior, and 8% of you are. And then we would also like to know, to what extent does your nonprofit currently utilize AI? So first option is extensively use AI across the organization. You have maybe implemented AI in some areas, you're exploring AI but have not yet implemented it, and maybe you haven't even looked into AI yet. We'd love to know where you all kind of stand today. Okay. So 60% have implemented AI in some areas. 22 are looking into AI but have not implemented it anywhere yet. 15% have not explored AI, and 3% are using it extensively across their organization. All right. Well, that was some great information. I'm going to go ahead and introduce our fantastic panel that we have here today. I'll go ahead and start with Scott Rosenkrans, who is the head of AI growth at EverTrue and the co-author of Nonprofit AI. How are you, Scott?
I'm doing well. How are you, Gabby?
I'm great. We have David Blyer, who is the co-founder, president, and CEO of Arreva. Thanks for being here today, David.
Hey, Gabby, thanks for putting it on. I just want to thank Scott and Chris for joining it. I really appreciate the audience for coming and hopefully learning something from either all of us or one of us today. And we really appreciate and we know how hard each of you work every single day. And you're looking for solutions to make it easier for you. And that's what it's all about.
Awesome. And then we have Chris Fink, who is the chief operating officer at Arreva. Hi, Chris.
Hey, Gabby. Thanks, Gabby, for putting this on. A huge thanks to Scott for joining us, and thank you, David, as well, and to everyone who's joined. Thanks for joining.
All right.
Great. Well, yes, I want to second Chris and David and thank everybody for being here. I'm incredibly excited. I love talking about AI. I love talking about our partnerships and what we could do for the nonprofit sector. There's a lot of reports that come out year after year. There's the Fundraising Effectiveness Project, there's Giving USA, and the numbers as reported here are things that you already feel, right? Everything on this slide right here is just saying that it gets harder every year to do the work that you have to make the impact that you're trying to make with your organization, to find the people that resonate with your mission and what you're doing, and bringing them closer into the fold so that they can help support you in all the work that you do. That's not easy. There's a lot of tools out there, a lot of tools to kind of synthesize that data, but just because a tool is there doesn't mean that you're seeing the efforts of that tool. And so some of the more scary numbers on here are 70% of your database is often one-time donors. 19%, less than 1 out of 5 one-time donors are ever going to make a second gift again. More than 50% of the dollars raised are coming from less than 1% of your population. And this gets worse and worse every year. But again, if you aren't paying attention to these numbers, you don't need to, because you feel that day in, day out of what you do. The poll that Gabby took originally of does it get harder to acquire new donors? Absolutely. 77% of you said yes. Like, this is something that we've seen over and over, that something is effectively broken in our sector, and there are ways to work around that, but we need to leverage the capabilities, the tools, and specifically artificial intelligence to be able to help us challenge this generosity crisis that we've been seeing for so long. Chris, David, I'd love to get your thoughts on the numbers here.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And this slide was really just to sort of set the backdrop for this conversation and really take a kind of a broader look at the fundraising landscape in general, right? And it really, like you're saying, Scott, I think my takeaway is just, it's one size fits all does not work anymore. Meaning, you cannot be communicating with all your donors in one way. You need to really be thinking about how people are engaged with your organization and communicating with them based on that and their engagement with you, and really taking a more careful approach to that communication. It really, because there's like these numbers show. I mean, there's more competition ultimately for fewer donors. There's the money's still out there. It's still being given. I'll adjust it for inflation. It's slightly less year to year, but the problem is that the number of donors is shrinking. So there's more competition. You have to differentiate yourself out there with all these donors. And like you said, Scott, I mean, the the retention rates are not good at 45%. Yeah, and like you said, the first time donors giving 19%, 90% of them give again. That means organizations are not doing a good enough job of keeping those donors engaged once they initially donate. And there's many ways to deal with that, and we can talk about some of that, and AI can definitely help too. David, I don't know if you want to expand
Yeah,
on any
no,
of
I just
that.
like to always touch on this. These numbers aren't just statistics. They're symptoms of a bigger challenge, all the nonprofits face. I mean, and again, we keep on repeating this a little bit, but it really is about donor connection. And many donors give once. I mean, you see it's 19%. Um, are they feeling good about their responses? Are they hearing back from the hearing back from the nonprofit when they give a donation or any type of donation for that matter? Are they hearing that back in a meaningful way? Are they seeing the impact that that donation is having? Even if it's a dollar, it doesn't really matter. But they don't feel that they're part of a story, or they don't feel that they're connected. And I think all of us on this room right here feel that, we felt that. I mean, I know I've sit on boards. I know I've given donations. I know how they impact it, but it starts with being intentional and how we communicate, when we communicate, and what we say. And I think AI can help on a lot of that. I mean, I could go into really granular things, but you got to tell an impact, story, not just the outcomes. Donors want to know the difference that they made. I mean, you got to think about who your audience is. And I go back because everybody in one way or the other, and I know Scott really knows about AI, and I've learned from Scott from day one, and I appreciate it, and hopefully you'll share. But whether it's generation AI, but then you have a database, right? How do you segment that database? How do you personalize each and every one of them in using? Because, like Chris said, one size doesn't fit all. An email that goes out for everybody doesn't work anymore. Maybe it used to, but competition is great. The economics here are hard today, and you're right, it's getting harder every day. And I mean, the movement and the speed of what's going on, whether it's a war and how it affects the market today, is different. Where it used to trickle, it doesn't trickle anymore. And showing gratitude early. I mean, I could talk about this so long on responsiveness and how do you do that very quickly with automation, right? If you're not responding within 48 to 72 hours, that positive donation and you're calling them in 30 days is going to be a negative. And how do you gauge all year round? So hopefully we talk a lot of these things, but at the end of the day, AI isn't 100% the solution. AI is a source of getting to this stuff.
Mhm. Yeah, that's going to be a key point of what we talk about today, how to leverage AI, because humans are still a vital element. You cannot do fundraising without humans, right? The whole fundraising sector, the nonprofit sector, is basically humans taking care of humans through the generosity of other humans, right? Robots are not going to come in and start being generous and making up the difference in this generosity crisis, right? This is a human-driven sector, and so we need to lean into that. Use AI where it's appropriate, where it can help augment us and make us more efficient with the limited resources we have, but always keep humans front and center. I've been in the nonprofit sector for 15 years, and I have yet to meet a nonprofit organization that has enough staff to manage everyone in their entire database. And so they keep leveraging the accessible data to identify the people that they want to prioritize, but oftentimes those data points are just focused on wealth. AI is here. AI is, you can't turn on your TV or talk to a friend or a neighbor or your children without hearing about what AI can do and what it can't do and all the scary things that might happen or all the wonderful things that might happen. But when talking about the nonprofit sector, a recent study came out saying that while most nonprofits are leveraging AI, are using AI in some capacity, very few are seeing effective impact. Most organizations are using AI to be a slightly faster copywriter, using it to send out emails or write messaging, just doing it a little bit faster. But there's so much more that it can be doing. Because this is a human thing, oftentimes when we talk about AI adoption, it's not about the tools, it's not about the data. Studies show that tools and data only make up 30% of successful AI adoption. It's all about the people, all about the people leveraging that information. And what these numbers here, Rich, show are that your fundraisers are comfortable with using AI, and the donors are expecting you to use AI, but very few are actually using it effectively and seeing the impact that it can make, especially when it comes to predictive AI. I'll talk about predictive versus the different types of tools, but predictive AI is really the only thing that's going to move the needle as an organization. Generative AI may make you faster, again, maybe a little bit more efficient with the limited time you have, but if you keep soliciting the same people over and over again, you're just throwing more spaghetti at the wall faster, right? We need to shift who we're prioritizing and what reasons we're prioritizing the people. And that's where predictive AI comes in. And that's why we had that question as the poll to really see, where are you? How are we meeting you where you're all at in your organizations or your partner firms, leveraging the tools available to make sure that you're prioritizing the right people at the right time. And so before we get too deep into it, there's a lot of confusion about AI, right? AI is a term that's been around for 70 years now. And what it meant 70 years ago is not what it means today. What it could do 70 years ago is like play a really impressive game of checkers, right? My 5-year-old son can almost play checkers, right? So it's not that impressive anymore. Now AI can do almost anything and everything. But not all AI is the same. It's not all designed the same. It doesn't all have the same outcomes or purposes or objectives. And so I want to kind of demystify that and talk about the different tools and where they play a role. The main one is predictive AI. And I say main because that's the one that's been running for the longest, usually under the scenes. The reason Netflix is so big, that Amazon is so big, that Google is so big is because they leverage predictive AI in everything that they do. Predictive AI is using historical data to identify patterns and essentially reverse engineer behavior. So that way it can determine what's going to happen in the future based on the patterns that it's seen in previous historical data sets. This is what we refer to as precision, allowing you to be precise in when it comes to donor fundraising in who's engaging in a certain way, who's showing up, who's raising their hands, but again, not hitting the typical metrics or markers that are used in traditional fundraising or philanthropy. So predictive AI is all about surfacing data, underlying patterns, and telling you who should be prioritized when. Generative AI is a completely different tool. This is what you think about when you think about ChatGPT or Gemini or Claude or any of those things. That leverages data to not necessarily synthesize patterns, but to distill information. It could take a lot of data and make that accessible to you. What this means is it can create new content. It can take your stories and your donor reports and your annual, 990s and all the messaging from your communication from your website and craft a new story from it and customize that story based on each person. Like Chris said, one size fits all doesn't work anymore. And so we need to meet our donors where they're at to show that they are unique individuals showing up in this relationship. We need to do the same. Generative AI, that's where it does that. Agentic AI is the next step. Agentic AI is a deeper version of generative AI. And think about this as taking action. Generative AI will tell you what to do, tell you what to say, synthesize that information so you feel more confident and prepared. But agentic AI can actually take tasks. A key way of thinking about this is think about your commute, right? You get in the car and there's a tool that tells you how long it's going to take to get to your destination, and if there's going to be traffic, and if there's something that occurs that's going to make you late. Think of that as like predictive. It's taking all that information to say what's going to happen. Generative AI would then be rerouting you, telling you a different way to get to your destination so you can get there quicker, taking that information at hand and giving you different outputs to say, here's a better plan. Then agentic AI would be an autonomous vehicle driving you there. All of those tools have a certain role and they all work very well together, but predictive AI will not drive you there. Agentic AI will not tell you the best way to go. They all have their certain place, and it's important to know that so that way you know what type of tools you need to leverage for whatever your use cases are.
All right. Thanks, Scott. Yeah, I totally agree with everything you're saying, particularly, the people element to AI, right? And really, if AI can help you surface those prospects or donors who, you shouldn't be sending a $20, email out asking for, $20. If really they're capable of giving 20,000, you should be developing a relationship with them and trying to land. And to your point, Scott, earlier, the majority of your individual donations are coming from for most organizations anyway, are coming from a very small percentage of your overall donors. How do you surface them? How can AI help you and help you determine how much you should be asking and what that communication strategy should be? But really, that all starts with data. I know you said, Scott, data is a part of it. And it's one of the things that David and we're talking to organizations every week, and it seems to be one of their largest struggles. How do we have that overall picture of our prospects, of our donors, of our constituents, and have it in one place so that we can analyze it and segment and create a communication strategy, a fundraising strategy around that, especially when you have siloed data. And having siloed data leads to dirty data because you're trying to get it all into one place. You create duplicate records, et cetera. I just talked to a client who struggled getting out of mailing lists for weeks because of it. But having, all of your data living in one place, giving history, event, attendance, engagement, past conversations, emails, relationships with others, it allows you to really not just react to that last gift, make decisions based on the entire picture of your constituents, right? And eliminating those missed opportunities. When systems are disconnected, it's easy to overlook donors who are ready to give more, and that unified database is going to help you surface and surface upgrade signals and engagement trends, so the potential major donors don't slip through the cracks ultimately, right? And it's, it can, when I say moves management, improving moves management, really that's just it. Some people call it pipeline management, major donor management, just being able to clearly see where you are with regards to your prospects and where they stand and what the next step is, and what are those relationships moving forward instead of stalling and forgetting about them. AI can help with that too, but and also can create accountability without adding any more complexity to what you're already trying to manage. And also, you're with clean data, good data in one place. It's going to enable you to have, like we alluded to earlier, smarter segmentation, more thoughtful segmentation of your constituents. Instead of guessing who to prioritize and who you should be personally reaching out, you can use giving patterns, engagement behaviors to focus time where it's going to have the greatest impact for you, right? Because like we said earlier as well, there's more competition for fewer donors out there. And go to the next slide, Gabby. Okay, Scott.
Yeah, and very true, Chris. Like the underlying data is vital in getting there and leveraging it to making sure that all the data plays a role, right? Organizations are very good at capturing data, but it's what they do with it that matters. And so being able to put those data pieces in the right places to make the most sense. That's where, again, that predictive AI, when we work with organizations, we see time and time again, the majority of nonprofits are utilizing capacity as their number one indicator of who to prioritize, right? Oftentimes it's because capacity is so easy to assess, right? If I say someone has $1 million capacity, everyone here knows what that means. If I say someone has an engagement of 98, it's hard to interpret that, right? And so it's easier to assess capacity. Engagement is a little bit more challenging, but engagement really is the number one driver. People don't give just because they have potential. Otherwise, Elon Musk, Melinda French Gates, Mackenzie Scott would be donors in every single CRM, right? They have unlimited capacity. They could give to all 1.8 million nonprofits sizable gifts, but they don't. They give where the mission and the vision of the organization aligns with their own personal mission, and where that engagement is strongest, they give more. So the first thing to assess is determining your data in your database to see, do they care about us? Are they showing up? Are they attending events? Are they clicking through emails? Are they volunteering? Do they have interest in what we're doing? And does that interest increase or decrease over time? How did it compare against a year ago or 2 years ago? And then once you know how much they care, are they philanthropic at all? Do they give to other organizations? If so, how much? Do they give $1,000? Do they give $100,000? How does that compare to what they've done here internally? And then finally, capacity. Maybe they've given $5,000 to every organization, but they're very highly engaged with you, and you think you could stretch them because you have a project coming up that really leverages what they're able to do and what their interests are. That's where capacity comes in. But capacity should be the last question, not the first. Always go in identifying the people that have that engagement. Chances are you have plenty of wealthy people in your database that are non-donors, and your next likely major donor is someone who's already highly engaged and just oftentimes overlooked. So it's again about putting the data in the right place to be able to help you make the most of what you've already been doing on a day-to-day organization. And then predictive AI, because it's taking all this data, it can answer many different questions. Again, it's not telling you what to do with these individuals, but it's telling you what they can do, what they're likely to do in the future. And so there are tools that already exist that say who's likely to respond to any appeal, to any outreach, who's likely to make their first gift ever. That acquisition, again, 53% of organizations are focused on acquisition, and oftentimes it's very hard to get a repeat gift from a donor, but getting that first gift is even harder. So how do we prioritize our overwhelming majority of non-donors to determine who to acquire first? Who will give again? How can we retain those that need to be retained? Or how do we reverse that and say who's not likely to give it again and get in front of them to re-engage them so we can continue that relationship and they don't fall into the 70% of one-time donors in your database? Who will upgrade? Seeing who you can identify as a annual giving donor into a leadership annual giving donor, and then ultimately into a major or principal gift donor. Who's showing up over and over again and increasing their giving, but again, often overlooked due to other markers. If you have a sustainer programs are huge in Europe. A lot of organizations are starting to play with that. How do you leverage those patterns of giving to your organization to see who's likely to repeat their giving on an annual monthly basis or annual basis and become that sustainer to help you build that donor foundation? And then lifetime value. Based on how they're showing up now, what's the likelihood that they're going to be high lifetime value donors, that they're going to be in the top 10% of our organization of lifetime value? And how do we learn that earlier on so we could strengthen that relationship as soon as possible? These are questions that your fundraisers already know and already think about internally, instinctively. The models just scale that instinct across the entire file. So now you can put every single person on this spectrum of this person is high likely to sustain, but maybe not upgrade their giving. And you know exactly where each person goes. Value is less about the score itself. It's more about the confidence to not chase everyone. To tell you again, the 95% of your people that you just do not need to worry about right now, but who are the 5% of people that should be prioritized and are showing up over and over again and just want to have stronger opportunities to engage with you, but just haven't been afforded those opportunities. When we talk with organizations that have done this, a classic example is Children's Hospital of Atlanta. Like many other organizations, again, they have millions of patient visits per year. So their database is gigantic. They have people coming in and out of those doors. They have tens of thousands of donors, but 80 staff in their foundation, 2 people on the annual giving team. So limited resources. They wanted to figure out how to leverage those limited resources as best as possible, like most organizations do. when using predictive AI to identify what data they already had in their database and how are people showing up, they found someone who had a very high score but very small giving. For Children's Healthcare of Atlanta, their largest gift was only $5,000, but they had significant capacity elsewhere. They had a very high score, a very high engagement score. They were just never put into a portfolio. They were never prioritized. And so a fundraiser saw that number, saw that high engagement score, and said, you know what? I want to ask them for a $50,000 gift. And they closed that gift within 2 weeks. Closing a $50,000 gift in 2 weeks is impressive enough on its own. Knowing that it's 10xing that person's giving history to that organization is even more impressive. But that's what happens. The data is just telling you, we're just quantifying the connection that these people have with the organization. And when they're already connected and already invested in what you're doing, once you open up that door to them and give them the opportunity to show their support and show their appreciation for your organization, you'll close larger gifts, you'll close them quicker, you'll get more yeses than nos. It's all just about putting the lens on the data to tell you where to go and when.
That is an impressive example, Scott. Thank you for sharing that. And we're going to talk a little bit more just about some practical ways of raising more money and also acquiring new donors. I mean, that you to be able to find those nuggets that you're talking about there, Scott, of within your database of people who could give more, you have to first have those donors and prospects in your database, right? And there are some ways to do that. That are really, you can use technology like Arreva's to really assist you in that way. And one of those that we found that has been hugely successful for our clients to acquire donors, but also to allow your supporters to become fundraisers for your cause and allow them to expose your organization to their own personal networks of people. Is through peer-to-peer and team fundraising. You know, we've seen it's great success, and we'll show you some examples too here in a second of people using those to their advantage. It really can allow your staff, your board members, your committee members, anybody really to help raise money and use their own personal networks and expose your organization to those and grab those donations through all those people and their information so that you can then use AI, predictive analytics, et cetera, to analyze them and to see if there's more latent potential there in your database. David, if you want to talk a little bit more about peer-to-peer and team fundraising.
Well, I truly love, when you think about AI, we're always talking about AI today, which is really great. But when you really think about team fundraising, it really is, it's an amazing way to get your board members, your active donors, your volunteers, for your cause to be able to reach out to their individual databases. I mean, it could, and their email addresses, which you do not have in your database. And it's another way to give you amazing exposure on the first thing, whether it's about the organization, about the individual event. And they're out there also building their own individual teams with their friends and their connections that are going to reach out to their individual donors. And if you really have an integrated solution, first of all, you want to drive all of that information of that individual donation from that individual person into your donor relationship management database. It's really cool. And that's one way of increasing your donor acquisition database. And it is a really powerful. At the same time, as an organization, you have to make sure that they're sending out the right messages. And there's a lot more to this. At the same time, maybe they don't want to, an individual doesn't want to participate as a team for whatever reason. But if they have the option for that same event or for whatever that would be, giving them the ability to build their own individual page as an individual, you think about like GoFundMe, right? And I always talk about it. I think GoFundMe is a great platform for individuals that are trying to help a friend that didn't have insurance or got a disease and want to let their other friends, and they get one check and they hand them that check, and their friendship is just really appreciated, right? As a nonprofit, you don't want to have that as a tool for your nonprofit, because as an individual, as a peer-to-peer fundraising, you're only going to get that one check and that's one donor. How do you thank those people? So when you do have a peer-to-peer fundraising, you're bringing that in. And again, it's going directly into your donor database if it's fully integrated and automated with your platform. And that's a really, really key exposure. It's a very powerful tool, but also I've seen an evolution going on right now. People that used to just use event registration and then individually ask their captains to do the team fundraising piece. The evolution is when you're asking, and it could be a 30-day event. I've seen teams do 5-day events, which drives a sense of urgency. The point though, when you the point on the team fundraising and the evolution that's happening is if you give your team captains and how they set this up, where they say, here's the reason why we're doing this. This is the event. Please give me a donation if you'd like to attend and you haven't received. And you got to think about it this way: the team captains are sending this out to their own friendships and their email addresses that you currently don't have. So it's another way of increasing not only the exposure, not only reaching more and raising more money, but they're also giving that ability to register for that event. And I've seen some amazing nonprofits do this where they're combining. First of all, they're sending out the event registration from their database. They're setting this up with the team captains and integrating event registration and a combination on the team fundraising. And the organizations that are now doing this, they're not only doubling, and I can say this, we have great case studies on this, doubling their revenue, but also um, doubling their donor database. It's an amazing thing. And then when you have all of these new donors and you're using AI to apply this almost immediately, you have a fresh donor database in the one aspect of it. You can segment out who those new donors were, and then using AI can identify maybe I should be asking as opposed to just doing a cross of saying, please give, is really selecting and looking for those new major donors within that fresh database because of an event that you're driving and using team fundraising or peer-to-peer fundraising.
Yeah.
Thanks, David. I
Okay.
just want to double check. Can everyone see the screen, the PowerPoint? Yeah, there was a comment that the screen share wasn't visible. Just want to double check. You can go ahead and give us a yes or a thumbs up in the chat. Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Good to me. All right. Everyone's good? Okay. All right. And what are the benefits of peer-to-peer and team funders? We talked about some already. And in case I just want to make sure people understand too, there is some nuances between peer-to-peer and team fundraising, right? Where peer-to-peer fundraising can be used for uh, raising money for anything. It could, but a lot of times it's used around campaigns. You're raising money for a specific thing. Let's say it's a capital campaign or an endowment campaign, or you're doing typically major donor fundraising. You're identifying high value prospects. You're defining outreach to each type of prospect that you have. And then the peer-to-peer system allows you to set up a system on your website that allows people to come in, create their own donation pages, and invite people to them and allow them to give money through their donation form. So essentially, there's a competitive aspect to this, right? Both in team and in peer-to-peer fundraising. That can be very motivating, depending on how competitive your people are. And you can let anyone do this. You could let the public come in and create peer-to-peer fundraising pages on behalf of your organization, or it could be, like, say, staff members, board members, everybody. A lot of time, I'm sure some of you have struggled with maybe your board members who are not as active in the fundraising side as they should be. Maybe it's because they are not inclined to go out and talk to people face to face. The peer-to-peer platform of ours really allows you to let those people raise money on behalf of your organization in a much less intimidating way by doing it online. They could post it on their Facebook or Instagram page as links to support your organization. So it's a great way to raise money. Whereas team is really it's around it's peer-to-peer like, except it's built around an event, right? It could be a walkathon, it could be a half marathon, it could be a golf tournament, whatever, where there's a start and end date. There's built some more urgency around it, and allows you to have teams. And then a major donor can create their own team. friends can join and contribute, and individuals can contribute, essentially is how that all works. But really, you can see why through how that could work, that donor acquisition is a huge piece of this, right, David?
It really allows you giving your donors that really want to participate on this. Not everybody will, but the ones that will, you're really turning them into ambassadors. They're
Mm,
sending out, you're supporting their and sharing maybe their personal stories for whatever affected them through truly and they're doing this through customized personal pages that if it's written well, and by the way, if you're not using AI to write this in a way that could be more compelling, they should, and inspiring others to give and the reasons why they give. It's really, you're really doing some incredible things. And again, you're opening up new doors with new potential donors, like I mentioned earlier, that you never had exposure to. And really, you're fostering authentic connections through your donors. And by allowing your donors to express, why your mission resonates, with them, you're creating a more deeper emotional bond that's going to really increase your donor retention. I mean, there's a lot of things that go into this too. And then what what you can really do on a powerful way, whether you're having an event to thank them for participating in this team fundraising or individuals, you can literally recognize people because you can track this within the donor database and identifying like Chris and saying, hey, Chris, thank you for the team fundraising. Not only did Chris raise this amount of money, but Chris, you contributed by adding this amount of new potential donors within our donor database. And then it goes back into best practices. So there's a lot of good that can come out of this acknowledgement, recognition, and culturally, these are things that you want to drive on retention. I mean, we're seeing retention down. Why? I mean, just challenge yourself. Are we acknowledging those individuals that are really helping us on a consistent basis? Are we having special ambassador? Maybe you have ambassador meetings, that after an event and recognize these types of people. So there's a lot of things that you can do. And when you really think that 20% of people are referring others, that's a huge percentage.
yeah. Yeah. So the takeaways, yeah, are basically empowering your donors to share, why your mission matters to them, creating authentic and emotional connections, right, with their own personal network. That gamification, that don't discount that. Like I said earlier, that competition can really work in your favor by incorporating leaderboards and progress meters on your website to show how much people have raised. It does work. And even if you are a local organization, the having these things virtual, having a peer-to-peer or team fundraising event online allows you to combine your local event maybe with virtual components, so you can engage other audiences and acquire new donors that you normally would not, right? It also not that competition isn't good, but it creates camaraderie, among your own staff, among your own board, and among the people that are help raising money for you. So, right.
You know, this is a great example. And when I had mentioned earlier about the increase from year to year to year, this is a real life story that we out of Hawaii. And just to summarize this, the first year that they used team fundraising, they didn't evolve in the sense of using their team captain and applying the event registration. When they did combine this as events, uh, donations, team captains, not only did they increase year over year over year, but in 2025 alone, which is really amazing. And by the way, in 2025 alone, they acquired over 2,200 new donors. And if you can think about that, that's pretty incredible using these team captains and their network. So to see that type of results, and then at the same time, you can see how they increased from 2024 all the way into 2026. And we're only in the first quarter of 2026. The other thing is, which is really incredible, is they start planning. I've seen some of these nonprofits, and I think this is Ronald McDonald Hawaii. They actually post in 2025 the events that they're starting for 2026. And it's a really easy setup. I mean, when you really think about this, oh my God, the time that it takes to set up a team fundraising, it should be simple. I mean, we have literally seen team fundraising set up within 24 hours and released. It's really incredible. And every year, even with Arreva's team fundraising platform, all they have to do is copy, paste what they did last year. And if they want to make any minor changes, they default it and they're up and running. But if you look at it from the perspective of what they gain by using this type of technology or software and getting 2,200 new donors in their database, and they're doing this year over year over year. So it's really a very powerful tool, and results speak for themselves.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to talk a little bit about prospecting and leveraging some of the services that EverTrue has that are incorporated into our solutions. And then I'll let Scott talk a little bit more about the practical uses of AI as well on top of that. So, Arreva solutions are integrated with EverTrue, and EverTrue does provide some great information outside of what you normally might be getting information-wise from your constituents. But there are some basic, prospecting fundamentals that I'm sure most of you are aware of. When you're identifying your prospects and really evaluating them in terms of major donor prospecting and then evaluating them and how you should be communicating with them, looking at your current donors, your lapsed donors, your new donors, using, the standard RFM, methodology, recency, frequency, monetary size of giving, looking in the rearview mirror of your donors, who's giving, how often, how much, et cetera. But there is some services from EverTrue that allow you to literally, you could be on in our solution, you could be on one of your donors' profiles. You can click a button. It's going to grab some information from EverTrue, including, as Scott mentioned earlier, propensity to give, their potential capacity for give. There's also some other markers that there's lots of information that you can bring back into our database that you can then combine with your own data in terms of past giving, past engagement, et cetera, to determine, really who are my high value prospects? How much should I be asking? You don't ask someone for $20 when they can give, $10,000, $20,000. And that integration with EverTrue really is where that's going to help you with that. And identifying those characteristics of your ideal donor demographic, interest values, capacity. They'll give you information on connectivity with board members, with other organizations. So really, if you haven't leveraged, what they call prospect research tools, like what EverTrue has, you should really consider it and make sure that you have a solution that's integrated with them so you can combine your own data with that data and really have a much better idea of who you should be prospecting and for how much, right? Okay, we'll let Scott get onto the next slides.
Yeah, and Chris, that's a great point. It's all about once you get someone in the door, once you're able to use your donors, have them amplify their passion for your organization to find new donors, find new relationships, get those people in your system, learning what you can learn about them, tracking the information of how they're showing up in your relationship, and putting that data to use. So it's not just collecting dust within your system, right? Once you have identified those next level major gift donors, those who are showing up, those who are engaged, those who have given maybe major gifts to other organizations, and you're prioritizing them, you can use the generative AI tools to tell you what the next step is, to help you be prepared within that relationship, right? I was a prospect researcher, and how long it took me to put together a prospect portfolio, I could spend a day and a half. Now the same information can be more comprehensive. I can still evaluate it to go in to make sure I'm trusting everything. It can be done in 5 minutes, right? So it just allows me to be more effective with my time so that I don't become a bottleneck for my organization, so that my organization has all the information that they need. If I have a gift officer who loves reports in bullet point format, and I have another gift officer who loves reports in narrative format, it would take me forever to be able to compile those things appropriately. But Gen AI can do that and just give you the value of time back, right? Allowing your gift officers to feel prepared when they go into that meeting. How does this person's passion or this person's interest or the story they shared connect with some of our fundraising opportunities and initiatives so that we can make the right story for them at the right time? outreach cadences. You're not going to reach out to everybody at the same time with all the same messaging, but personalizing to them, to their interest, where they're showing up, whether it's digital and Facebook engagement, or it's short message, text message, or it's email, or it's phone call, just telling you how to connect with them and where to connect with them to get the greatest results. And then those personalized appeals. Chris said this early on in the beginning. You can't have all of your donors have the same exact message. They're showing up for different reasons. They're showing up in different ways. Their reason and motivation to give to you is unique to them. And so you want to be able to show them that you see them for who they are and you can meet them where they are and have that appeal personalized to their own specific story. And so what this means is that the different systems of AI can all play a role when that data is tracked. You can use the predictive AI to screen and score everybody in your database and prioritize the right people at the right time. You can use a generative to synthesize that data and tell you what to do next. Agentic AI is coming and it can start taking action, tracking systems in your database, putting notes into your system, compiling emails for you to go out. So helping you basically just focus on that last element, which is the most important, the human to human connection, building that relationship, fostering that relationship. AI should always be focused on informational, whereas humans should be focused on relational aspects, right? That's a hill I will die on. And so let AI give you more time back to focus and spend time with those donors that are so engaged with you, love what you're doing, and have that passion for you and want to be met with an individual human and not a bot, right? That's what all this is about. There's no fundraising if it's not for that human relationship. So let AI do all the things that it can do, keep humans in the loop, keep them focused, but use that time that you get back not to just do more work, but to have those meaningful connections, have those meaningful conversations, and let people share the stories of why they're so excited to give to you. Then you can go to the next slide.
Okay. I'll be quick. Got some more slides left. Great point, Scott, about the appeal and really, on the fundraising side, personalizing things and making sure that you are communicating from a human point of view, even though you can use technology to help you with that. But it really, after the donation too is hugely important, right? And stewardship seems to be an afterthought, and I think that is why you see such pitiful retention levels, right? And so many, one-time donors never give again. And that's really your opportunity after that first donation to build that deeper relationship, right? It's so expensive to acquire a donor. It just is, and you put so much effort into identifying and qualifying them, and getting that donation. And if that's where the relationship ends, that's why your retention level is going to be low. So really, after that gift is made, your donors are watching, and I mean, out of the gate, timely thank you, but personalized thank yous too. And you don't have to Scott's point, you don't have to. Those are things that you can personalize, use technology to help you personalize those. Those thank you letters and those follow-ups and those reach outs, but you can still add a human element to it to make it so it's not too onerous for you to do this, right? But personalized follow-up, it just demonstrates that you see them, they're being recognized, and you listened. And then ongoing updates to connect their investment to your impact, right? And that's where loyalty and that long-term commitment from your donors are built. But also communicate in the way they want to be communicated. Are you asking them how they want to be communicated with? Or you don't want them to unsubscribe from your email list simply because you've now put them on, you're sending them a newsletter as well as 5 solicitations a month. Make sure that you are not alienating as well, and you're tracking what their communications preferences are for that, right? But also have donor journeys established for all your different types of segments of your donor base and your constituents, so that you have cadences and outreach set up for each one of those groups. And again, technology can help you do that too, to surface who your donors are, how you want to what their journey should be based on how they're affiliated with your organization, and then set up those communication schedules appropriately. But every donor interaction should end with a defined next action. Otherwise, it's not going to be meaningful. You need to have clear tasks and documented steps for this, to have ownership. So who's responsible? What's the follow-up? When will it happen? making sure you're taking, you're documenting all this, and it's not just institutional memory like we see a lot of the times. So because we all know the tenure of people in the fundraising side of organizations is not as long as it should be. So making sure you're documenting all of this for everyone else if you happen to leave. But that consistency will drive that long-term growth, right? I mean, the major gift programs will succeed through that consistency, and donors feel known and valued when communication is thoughtful and coordinated. Anyway, I'll let you get to your next slide, Scott.
Really, that's it. I feel that even if your budget allowed for hiring humans, humans are not going to be able to synthesize the data as efficiently as AI can. Again, prospect researcher at heart, like I know the data that's accessible and how much is there, the decisions that need to be made. Let AI handle the decision fatigue so you could focus on that relationship again. AI adoption, no matter if you buy the tool, the tools are not going to make you successful with AI adoption. You need to lean into the human on what is uniquely human. So focus on the culture and how to leverage the tools to get in front of the right people at the right time, because the next major donor is already in your database. You already have these relationships. They already know who you are. You just need to learn more about who they are and elevate them to a level of where their passion lies. Use AI specifically for synthesizing information, for prioritizing information. Do not use it to manage the relationship. It can automate the tasks that support relationships, but it should not automate the relationship. That's what we should do. We should be in the center of that relationship with humans, because they're always going to show up for us, right? It's not going to be a point where bots are giving to us and our number one donors are AI bots. It's always going to be humans. So let's show up the same way that they're showing for us. And then in terms of your own AI adoption, just start small. You can't do everything all at once. So just start with some of your more high priority tasks, maybe low risk tasks with AI, and what's getting in the way of you having that human to human connection. Start there and then just keep iterating moving forward.
I know we have a lot of questions about this, but and I know certain people don't know who Arreva is. So we've been around for over 30 years. We have over 6,000 clients worldwide. We're primarily focused here in the United States. Our clients through different applications that we do provide have done over 30,000, 40,000 now, different types of applications. Our software was built exclusively for the nonprofit industry. Not only do we have thousands of clients, but we've also been vetted and approved by many national organizations that are up here. Like a lot of you, you face a lot of different challenges, um, and and part of those challenges is where you have more than one or two applications. That alone, when you're having no integration, they're not automated. You have to move data from one place to another. Literally, can be one of those effects that is causing you decline in retention and not increasing your donor database. When you think about that, because how you're responding, how fast you're responding to a donation, if your systems are not providing you that ability to give you that immediate acknowledgement, then the experience that a donor is having, because you're having limited communication, because it's not readily available at your fingertips, and the experience that they're having isn't always consistent. This is one of the many reasons why 19% of donors are not only giving the first time. There's a lot of different solutions that we have as a company. One of the important things, yeah, thanks, Gabby. One of the important things to note here is we provide and learned a lot about the different applications that are needed in the industry. It looks like it's a lot, and it is. But the nice thing about our core flagship product that really solved a lot of these problems is you don't have to buy everything. But we do. When you talk about team fundraising, you talk about peer-to-peer fundraising, you talk about donation platforms and campaign management, grant management, and you have multiple databases. Our solution isn't that. We have all of these applications, but one of the major differences is it's all within one unified database. So any application, any transaction is going into that one single database. It's fully automated where you're getting the automatic thank you acknowledgement receipts, which a lot of things do anyways. You're getting immediate notifications. And the other nice thing is, this is when it's embedded into your website. Site engagement is going up by over 215%. Why? Because when they press on a donation or event registration, they're not being pushed off to a third-party vendor to their website. And really, this is what Exceed Further is doing. So thank you for that.
Thanks, David. And if you'd like to learn more about Arreva and be contacted from someone from our team, go ahead and hit yes on the poll that's on the screen now. All right. And then if you would like to learn more about EverTrue, go ahead and hit yes, and we will send your information over to Scott and his team to get in touch. All right, so I'll leave that poll up, and then I'm going to stop sharing my screen so we can get into our Q&A because we have a lot of great questions. First question, does it matter which AI you use? Examples, ChatGPT versus Claude, etc.
I'm sure we all have different answers to that. I feel like it's less about the tool itself. It's more about your workflow and how you're approaching it, right? Like ChatGPT and Claude, they have different capabilities, but they're evolving all the time. So what Claude can do now, ChatGPT might be able to do in a couple months, or what ChatGPT can do now, Claude might be able to do in a couple months. So it's really where your comfort level lives. Be willing to try new things just to see what works for you. But it's always going to be about how to think about your process differently, how to think about how AI can leverage you, and that's where you're going to get the most um, the greatest output out of whatever tool you're using.
Thanks. Chris, are you going to answer? I saw you about to talk.
No, I was just going to say I'm cheap and lazy, so I just use Google Gemini because I already have a Gmail account. But
There you go. Whatever works for you. I get
I
it.
mean, Scott, is privacy concerned with any of these platforms?
Definitely. And even if like so there's a whole notion of if you aren't paying for the product, you are the product, right? So if you are using a free version, not only is all of your data being used to train their models, but you're also giving older, less effective models, right? So I would encourage everyone to pay for the product. You have a little bit more control over, A, you have more accessible tools. You have a little bit more control over your security and privacy. My rule of thumb, though, is because these are for-profit organizations that can change their mind at whatever point, is don't put data into a system unless you feel comfortable telling the person whose data it is that you put it into the system, right?
Okay.
AI doesn't need to know the person's name or their address. They need to know how they're showing up. And then you could just fill in the name and the address after the fact. So that's kind of my rule of thumb. It just better be safe than sorry.
Yeah.
Hey, Scott, when we talk about chat and we talk about Claude or Chris, the product that you like
Gemini,
because
yeah.
you have Gemini, it's really interesting. But it's so much more than that, and there are so many applications out there that already exist. So when you really think about this, whether it's a financial and the old way of, and I don't mean it's an old way, but you got to do your quarterly reports for your board. There's software out there for $50 a month which can do all of this like that. It's a dashboard. It's all AI driven. I mean, when you really start thinking about the other things, make your life easier. It's not just about, oh, I got to build this or I can use chat for that, but there's a lot of applications that they're not expensive out there. I mean, I even know, Gabby is truly an innovative leader in our marketing team. We wanted to figure out like more potential nonprofits. We bought a product which was called Seamless AI. It made it a lot faster. If you look at your scoring and profiling, Scott, right? It's not just donor search anymore. Donor search really evolved and they brought in integrated AI into the donor search. It's a tool, you buy it. So when you really think about these things, it's not just, chat or Claude, which by the way, I'm sure they're all great products and everybody has different opinions. I mean, I have a friend that every single time something new comes out, I remember he said, "Oh my God, David, you got to use Copilot." I couldn't afford it because it was enterprise version. Then something else came out and he says, "Oh, that's terrible. This is better." Then something new came out and he says, "Oh, that's not good anymore." I said, "I can't keep up with you." And you're
Yeah.
right. It's what you like. It's what you're comfortable with. It's trying different things. But the world of AI is expanded so quickly. Just think, do your own Google search if you're looking for a financial application or a business application or a better way of writing. I mean, there's some really good platforms. Very simple, but it exists that can really help you even more today.
Mhm.
I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, Scott, because I don't want to lose sight of what you guys do at Donor Search on the AI side too.
Yeah, and to your point, it's all about like what is built specifically for you. Again, Donor Search AI is built for the nonprofit sector. We basically built what we wish existed when we were back at nonprofits, right? Knowing that there aren't many tools that are leveraging our data as effectively and efficiently as this can. Um, but tools are going to change all the time, right? Especially for-profit tools like the Claude, the ChatGPT, like those generative AI tools are going to change all the time. So try not to get married to something. Just be open-minded about trying different things and, try it and see if it works. And if not, just keep going back to what you're doing. But always iterate, because in 2 months from now, ChatGPT is going to have a different model that works differently than what you've been using before. So it's able to do different things that you weren't able to do before. So always kind of be on your toes about how to use AI effectively. And then it's important about what you do with that time you get back. Make sure you're using that time back for yourself, for your relationships, for people you care about, the mission, but always that human connection.
Got Another question, is the number of people donating really shrinking, or are they just giving differently? I was just on a call with international NGOs, and the Germans were complaining that it is easier in the USA as Americans are much more generous than Germans. Are we telling ourselves a crisis narrative, or is there really a giving/donor crisis?
But I think it's what's relative, right? Like maybe there's more generosity in the US than in Germany, but that doesn't mean there's more generosity 20, 30 years ago in the US than there is now, right? It used to be 20 years ago, it was 70% of households would give charitably, and now less than 50. And that number's been on a steady decline every single year. So yeah, we might still be in a good position, but resting on our laurels and just saying, well, we're better than other countries, like we might not have it as hard, but we have a lot more to lose, right? When 2/3 of all the dollars being transitioned in philanthropy in the US is coming from individuals and fewer individuals, like that number, 66%, only shows you the proportion. But if the total dollars is decreasing, then it doesn't really matter the percentage because it's less and less every single year. And so we need to sustain our programs, or something that Europe does very well. We haven't fully adopted that. There's starting to be more and more of those coming in, but leveraging some of that and again, managing that relationship. It's focusing less on the transaction itself, focusing more on the individual that's showing up and committing some of their hard-earned resources to help you do what you do best.
Yeah, and to be clear, the stats we were giving, I think for most of that, right, Gabby, came from the Giving USA report, which is specifically US giving. It's not looking internationally.
Yep.
And I believe, and please keep me honest here, Scott, David, Gabby, that it does show that year to year, the number of donors is declining slightly. The dollars actually increased in actual dollars, but in inflation adjusted dollars, it's slightly lower, if I believe is what it
You
was
got
telling
that
us.
right, Chris. That was
Okay,
right.
thank you.
Yeah. And I think the numbers going up is almost masked by ultra high net worth individuals,
Yes.
right? It's by Mackenzie Scott giving 20 million. Like that's
Hmm.
wonderful, but how many people on this webinar got a $20 million gift from Mackenzie Scott, right? So yeah, like there's great philanthropy, but it's not being spread as evenly. It's coming from a few people at the very top. And it makes it a little bit harder for everyone else who's just trying to like connect with their community.
In the beginning of the session, we talked about, clean data and the importance of it. What are some best practices for maintaining clean data?
Oh man, I'll start and just say well, as I said during the slides, I mean, one is having fewer data silos, right? Having a solution that can handle all those different types of data that you're managing. So it's not in 4 different. Most of our clients at least have 3 to 4 different databases they're using to track constituent information. But it's also honestly a huge part of it too is the turnover I talked about as well, in these organizations and those databases that you use to track that data going through so many different hands and having it not documented how data should go into your solutions and get out. So creating a procedures manual is something I always tell our clients, really it doesn't have to be huge. It just has to be like, hey, this is how a new constituent goes into our database. This is how a gift goes in. It has to have these attributes. You can also use the technology itself, the solution to enforce data integrity. We have a lot of things in our database application that say, hey, you can't save a gift without having these attributes attached. You have to search for a record before you add a gift to it, so you don't create dupes. And also all those, the biggest vector for dirty data is usually trying to bring gifts in from another solution into your donor fundraising and management database. So I just managed this event over here, and now I got to bring in all the event purchases and in-kind donations, and then you inject a bunch of duplicates, and it creates a mess. So yeah, having integrated solutions is helpful.
Thanks, Chris. Another question that came up when we were touching on team fundraising: how do I use your system to find new donors?
We talked a bit about that on the team fundraising acquisition side with events, team fundraising, et cetera. I mean, there are also other ways, right, Scott? I mean, as far as Arreva EverTrue also offers lists, correct?
Yeah, we can help you identify people, lists available of philanthropic giving to organizations. So you can see, like, again, with less than 50% of Americans giving charitably each year, knowing people in your area is one thing, but knowing people who believe in the value of philanthropy, who understand the value of philanthropy, that's more helpful. So being able to identify people who have given to similar organizations as yours, that have given recently, that are in your area, in your network, that you can open up those doors to, that's a key part of it. And then seeing how do they give to other organizations, and have they had any engagement with us, right? Finding someone off the street that doesn't know who you are, even if they're philanthropic everywhere else, might not be as strong as seeing someone who you're in their backyard and they've clicked through your emails. They're already on your outbound lists, so they know who you are. There is engagement there. Tracking those indicators, like Chris said, pulling in from different systems to say, hey, maybe they're showing up in ways that we just haven't realized yet because they haven't made that gift, but there's interest there that we could bring in, and it's going to be easier than just trying to tell someone who doesn't know us all the great things that we do.
Great. Do you have any prompts you would recommend to plug into AI to track warmth scores of people in your database?
So this could be, when I hear that question, I think of generative AI, right? Generative AI has prompts. Generative AI is not the tool that would be providing scores of how people are engaged with you, right? The caveat is it'll sound very convincing. If you gave a whole database to ChatGPT or Claude and said, "Tell me who's most engaged," it's going to sound very, very convincing. But it's not designed to build out those patterns to reverse engineer engagement with you. It's designed to sound convincing, to tell you what you want to hear, to give you output. So, like, you just have to be careful with what tool you're using, and that's kind of why we dug into what predictive AI can do. There's no prompts really in a predictive AI tool because it has to be built. There are prompts in generative AI tool, but it's not synthesizing and digging into those patterns. In the future, I've met people at OpenAI who said that generative AI can build predictive AI in the future, but we're not there yet. So just be careful with what tool you're using and for what purpose. However, if you do have historical warmth scores, you can have it do a visualization of how people have engaged over time, but you have to provide it those engagement scores. It's not going to create those engagement scores for you.
Thank you. Quick question: is team fundraising always centered around an event?
No, it doesn't have to be centered around an event at all. I mean, it could be. I actually saw um, a young man who's literally 13 years old who was already aligned for whatever reason with the organization, and it was he was just going out, and I think he heard something that they needed some money, and he went out on his own. And I think he said, "I'm going to raise $180." I think he raised $1,800 through his friends. Um, no, it doesn't have to be an event per se. I know a human service organization that had buses, and one of the buses broke down, and they couldn't afford the bus. It was literally broken. They needed a new bus. They felt it was unsafe. They used team fundraising to raise money for the bus. I mean, I think it could be for anything. I really love whether it's a sense of urgency. There was a school that did this, and they did it. They always did it for 7 days only. I mean it for 7 days. And the reason they wanted to do the 7 days is it was in a school district that whatever they couldn't afford their backpacks, and they're at the beginning of every school year, and they want to give backpacks and lunch boxes and pens and pencils. So they went out to the community through team fundraising, and they said, "Hey, we're trying to give," and And by the way, it was a really community-driven thing. They had each classroom, each school, there was, I think, 7 different schools that were aligned and affiliated. They got the teachers in certain classrooms. They got certain donors. It was really a collaborative thing, and in 7 days, they exceeded their goals. They do this now every single year. So I don't think it has to be a gala event, an auction event. It could be anything that you could think about of why you want to raise money. I mean,
Hmm.
it just
Yeah.
depends. Maybe there's services that you really want to provide, and you need to hire more staff, and it's a great cause. Again, you can't just rely on your donor database. You really do want to use the people that you know, and like I said earlier about changing your donors. And by the way, volunteers can help too. Maybe volunteers can give in a different way. They don't always have to give in money, and they give their time, but they also have a network of friends. So when you think about it, use those resources. Think about whatever you would want to use from a team fundraising perspective, but at the same time, it is going to help grow that donor database. It is going to help with retention. Don't stop acknowledging those individuals, acknowledge them, and not just for the
Hmm.
money raised, but how many donors that they actually helped increase to your organization. So I think there's a lot of multiple different ways of using team
Yeah.
fundraising.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, and sometimes events, physical events do provide structure, but I have seen just purely the event is it's a fundraising event, especially in COVID, people were also doing virtual challenges, things like that for team fundraising where there wasn't really a physical event necessarily. So
Yeah,
you can utilize team fundraising without actually having a physical event. Yeah.
yeah.
And then a follow-up question, where should peer-to-peer donors live in your database if they're not
Mm.
donors per se, they're new to your organization? How should you segment them out?
Yeah, well, in our solution, for peer-to-peer campaigns, there's the person that's created the peer-to-peer page that is then raising money on behalf of your organization. So the donors they're bringing in become regular donors for you too, meaning they're coming into your database as donors. The gift itself that they're giving through this peer-to-peer event usually has an attribute attached to it so that this gift came from this peer-to-peer event. And we also attach the fundraiser, the person who created the peer-to-peer page, who actually got the donation for you, they are labeled as a solicitor, what we call a solicitor. That's attached to that gift as well. So not only do you know, okay, this donation was given by this person because of this peer-to-peer campaign, but this money was actually raised by, this board member who created this donation page on our peer-to-peer campaign. So you can also see how much each person is raising on your behalf, but also who gave and why. And then you can segment those people out. I don't know if I'm answering this question, but you can definitely segment the donors as well as the people who are raising money on your behalf out, and segment them specifically. So you can thank them specifically. You can steward them accordingly as well, right?
Mhm. All right. I know we're over time here. There are a couple more questions. Last one, does your software connect directly with Blackbaud NXT?
I know that Donor Search and EverTrue does. So some of you might be familiar with Donor Search. We recently got acquired by EverTrue, so Donor Search is now a product under EverTrue, and we do have integrations with many CRMs, including Arreva.
I think from a Reaver perspective, and I know there are Blackbaud clients that are using it for whatever reason they are, or they just locked in the contract, or they can't get out of their contracts, but they are looking for a completely integrated solution where they may be using one platform for auctions, another platform for donations and event registrations. I mean, we do really provide, as I mentioned earlier, all of that. And you can capture all of that within our Exceed Further Donor Relationship Management database. But you do have the ability to export that data into a CSV file and then download that data into whatever platform that you would want to. I don't know if you want to touch on that a little bit more, Chris, but there's no reason why you couldn't keep what NXT is and use that as the database. I mean, we've done that in a few different organizations.
Yeah, we have. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And we do have auction platform, David, that is integrated. Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
auctions, events, grants, campaign
Mhm.
management, text-based solutions, unlimited donation pages, so we have it all as one solution. So you're not having multiple solutions. So even if you had NXT and you're using 4 or 5 different applications, it's another way to consolidate all of those and still retain your NXT platform.
Yep.
Good. Thanks, Chris. Thanks, Scott. There are some other questions that are more so about specific reports that you can pull in Arreva, things like that. So I'll go ahead and put a poll up. If you do want to get in touch about kind of single instances, any specific questions you have, more than happy to do that. Someone from our team will reach out to you so we can give you a more tailored consultation rather than over a webinar. But thank you everyone for joining us today. Scott, Chris, David, any final words?
Thank you all for attending it. It's been very exciting I always enjoy working with the Arreva team and getting to talk about all the cool things that you do and that we do together. Yeah, I encourage you all to lean into AI. Again, keep that guardrail of AI informational and humans relational, and do the work that you all do best.
Yeah, it's always great having conversations with Scott. I learn something every time I talk to him. So thanks, Scott, for being here today. And thanks, David, too. And thanks, Gabby, for putting this together. And thanks to all of you for joining.
Well, I want to thank Gabby for putting this on, and she really does an amazing job, and I don't take that lightly at all. I want to thank my colleague Chris. He's just an amazing guy. He can talk about fundraising, donor segmentation. He's really amazing. When you're reaching out, if you want to speak to Chris, he'll do that. Scott, you're an amazing person. I admire you. I really appreciate the knowledge that you have, what you've learned in AI, but more importantly, how you are willing to share this with so many people, not just on this. I mean, he's also on the board of Fundraising AI, which is a really amazing organization. So thank you for that. And I know each of you every single day work really hard. You're looking for easier ways, whether it's AI, whether it's consolidation, whether it's new donors, whether it's anything. They're out there. I mean, Arreva is here to help you in any way. And one thing that I love about Arreva is we're not just here to sell software. We really care about the industry and we really care about our clients and the ones that aren't clients. We provide a lot of information on our website. Go look, there's guidelines and all of these other wonderful things that we provide. But I do want to thank all of you for an amazing job that you do all the time and every single day, whether you're in human services, diseases, disabilities. It's really amazing. And really, without you, the world wouldn't be a better place. It is a better place because of what you do. So thank you.
All right, well, you'll be receiving a recorded version of the session today, as well as the PowerPoint slides, and we hope to see you on our next Arreva webinar. Make it a great day.
Thanks, Gabby.
Thanks.